The prison beyond time, far beyond the last known star, in a place where light itself seemed afraid to travel. An ancient alien warship drifted alone. It had been there for so long that entire civilizations had risen and fallen without ever knowing. It existed. Its hull was blackened and scarred, its massive frame silent and cold. Like a dead beast floating through an endless night, inside that ship, in the very heart of its deepest chamber, a single prisoner was trapped. The alien's name was Vather, and he had not seen the light of a real star for thousands of years. He hung suspended in a field of shimmering light, chains of pure energy wrapped around his body. The chains pulsed faintly, like they were alive, and every time Vather tried to move, they tightened with a cruel hum. There was no sound in the chamber except for the voice of the prison's AI. It repeated the same sentence over and over, in a tone with no emotion. Sentence, eternal. Sentence, eternal. Vather's eyes, a deep burning gold, stared into the darkness. He no longer shouted or struggled. The chains could not be broken. And no one came here. For him, time had no meaning. The universe had forgotten him. At least, that's what he thought. Then, something happened that had not happened in all his long captivity. The prison sensors awoke. Faint beeps echoed through the metal corridors. The AI's calm voice suddenly changed. Warning, unauthorized vessel detected. Outside, cutting through the darkness. A small human exploration craft approached. It was nothing like the great alien warships of legend. This one was small, fast, and worn from long journeys. Its hull bore the marks of asteroid dust and old battles. The pilot was Captain Elias Morgan. He was alone, as he had been for months, charting unknown regions of space. When his scanners picked up the massive alien ship, his heart beat faster. It was impossible for something this size to be drifting here unnoticed. And yet, here it was. Elias slowed his craft and circled the giant vessel. His eyes scanned every detail. The design was unlike anything he had studied. Sharp curves, overlapping layers of alien metal, strange glowing patterns on its surface. It felt alive. Through his cockpit window, the warship seemed less like a machine and more like some massive sleeping predator. Something about it called to him. He didn't know why, but he felt he needed to go inside. His ship's computer gave several warnings about unknown energy fields. Elias ignored them. Caution was for the safe, and he had never been safe. He docked at one of the smaller airlocks. The metal hatch was old and scorched, yet it opened with a slow, deep groan. Inside, the corridors were silent. The air was cold and dry, the lights dim. Strange alien writing glowed faintly on the walls. Elias moved carefully, his footsteps echoing. The deeper he went, the stronger a strange pull grew inside him. It was as if something or someone was guiding him. Finally, he reached a huge chamber. At its center, floating above the floor, was Vather. Elias stopped, staring. The alien was tall, with sharp features, his skin a pale metallic gray, his long hair drifting slowly in the stasis field. Chains of glowing light bound his arms, chest, and legs. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Vather's eyes opened. For a moment, Elias thought he saw shock in them. Then Vather spoke, his voice deep and heavy. "You should not be here, human." Elias stepped closer. "You're alive," he said quietly. Vather's gaze locked on him. "Alive, yes, but not free. These chains are eternal, forged to hold me until the stars themselves fade." Elias frowned. "Who did this to you?" Vather's face darkened. "Powers you cannot imagine. Now, go." Before their eyes turned toward you, Elias didn't move. Something in the alien's voice was not a threat. It was fear, and something else. Curiosity. "Why are you here?" Elias asked. Vather gave a bitter smile. "Because I knew the truth. And the truth is the greatest crime." The chains glowed brighter, reacting to his words. He winced in pain, but his eyes never left Elias. "You cannot help me, human." "No one can." Elias took another step forward. The air between them crackled with strange energy. He could feel the heat from the glowing chains. Without thinking, he reached out his hand. Vather's voice rose sharply. "No. If you touch me, you will share my curse." But Elias didn't stop. He had come this far, and deep inside, he felt that this moment, this choice was why he had found the ship in the first place. The space between his fingers and the chains closed. The glowing link shimmered. Somewhere deep inside the ship, the IS voice screamed, "Containment breach. Universal law violated." Vather stared in disbelief. No one in all the galaxy had broken the eternal chains. No one until now. The human stranger. The light shattered. Not in pieces, not like glass, but as if the very idea of the chains had been erased from reality. They were there one moment, wrapping Vather in eternal captivity, and the next they were nothing. Only faint sparks drifted in the cold air like dying stars. Vather fell forward, his knees hitting the floor with a dull thud. His breath came fast, as if every moment of the last 1,000 years had just caught up to him. For a second, he simply stared at his own hands, free for the first time since before human history began. Elias stepped back, unsure. He had seen strange things in his travel space. Storms that sang, planets with skies like liquid gold, but never anything like this. He half expected some alarm to summon soldiers, but the chamber remained empty except for them, and the IS voice, now distorted, "Error. Law breach. Law breach, breach." Vather rose slowly, his movements heavy but full of purpose, his golden eyes fixed on Elias. "What are you?" the alien asked, his tone halfway between awe and accusation. Elias gave a faint smile. "I'm human." Vather's expression shifted, as if the word carried weight beyond understanding. He stepped closer, his tall frame casting a shadow over Elias. "No other race has broken the eternal chains. Not the giants of Talthun, not the mindweavers of Eris, not the starburn of Athron, but you. You touched them, and they ceased to be." Elias glanced at the shattered energy fading into the floor. "I didn't mean to break anything. I just thought you shouldn't be trapped." Vather let out a slow breath. "That is what makes you dangerous." The air around them began to hum, through the cracked walls of the prison ship. Faint blue lights pulsed in alert. Vather's voice sharpened. "They will come now, the wardens, keepers of the law eternal. They will hunt you until there is nothing left." Elias crossed his arms. "I've been hunted before." Vather studied him, then tilted his head slightly. "You saved me without knowing who I am, without knowing why I was imprisoned. That is either great courage or great foolishness." Elias shrugged. "Sometimes it's the same thing." The IS voice, broken and glitching, suddenly screamed, "Containment breach confirmed. Summoning warden fleet. Estimated arrival, 2 cycles." Vather's eyes narrowed. 2 cycles. "We don't have much time." He moved toward the exit, his steps stronger now, but Elias didn't follow right away. Something in the chamber called to him again. On the far wall, half hidden in shadow, he saw a mural strange. Alien carvings of different species bound in light. At the very end of the mural was a figure that looked human. It was crudely etched, almost like it had been added later, but it was unmistakable. Elias felt a cold shiver run through him. Vather noticed his stare. "You see it too," he said, his voice low. "That carving was here before your people left their world. The wardens knew of humans long before humans knew the stars." Elias turned to him. "Why? What do they want with us?" Vather's golden eyes gleamed. "They do not want you, Elias Morgan. They fear you." A distant rumble shook the floor. The ancient ship groaned as if something enormous had latched onto it. Vather's voice hardened. "If you stay here, you will die. If you come with me, you will live, but your life will never be the same." Elias smiled faintly. Wasn't planning on it being the same anyway. Without another word, they ran. The corridors twisted and pulsed with dim light, as if the ship itself knew the prisoner was gone. Behind them, the voice faded into static, Outside, in the black between stars, a shadow moved sleek, sharp, and full of hunger. Asterisk. The impossible break. The human ship was small compared to the ancient prison vessel. Its engines whispered instead of roared. But in the silent void, that whisper felt loud. Elias pulled Vather inside, sealing the hatch behind them. The instant they left the prison's airlock, a violent tremor rolled through the alien ship. It wasn't just falling apart, it was vanishing. Whole corridors faded into dust, turning to streams of light that drifted into the dark. From the cockpit, Elias watched as the giant vessel dissolved piece by piece. "That's not an explosion," he muttered. "No," Vather said, his voice heavy. "The wardens are erasing it. They do not allow witnesses." The ship's scanners blared a dozen massive signals approaching fast. Elias zoomed the display. The shapes were unlike anything in his database, dark needle-like warships, their hulls marked with glowing runes. "They're early," Vather muttered. "We have less than a cycle now." Elias' fingers danced over the controls. "I can outrun most things," he said. "But I'd like to know what's chasing me." Vather stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the incoming fleet. "They are the wardens, keepers of the oldest law. They decide who is too dangerous to walk free, and once they mark you, you will never escape them." Elias glanced at him. "And why do they think I'm dangerous?" "I'm just a pilot who touched the wrong chain." Vather turned to face him fully. "Because you broke it. Human hands are not supposed to break the eternal chains. Not through strength, not through technology. They were forged in the first age, in the heart of a dying star, and bound by the will of the architects. No power in the galaxy has ever undone them, until you." Elias frowned. "Maybe it wasn't me, maybe the chains were just old." Vather shook his head. "They do not age, they do not weaken, they respond only to will. And your will was stronger than the law itself." For a moment, silence filled the small cabin. The stars beyond the glass looked cold and endless. Elias could feel the weight of Vather's words. If this was true, then touching those chains hadn't just freed one prisoner. It had broken something ancient and absolute. A sudden pulse of energy slammed into the ship. Elias gripped the controls, spinning them away from the source. Vather's voice was calm but urgent. "They have marked you now. Your ship carries the brand. They will follow it anywhere, across any distance." Elias thought fast. "So I ditch the ship, take another." Vather's golden eyes narrowed. "They will not be fooled. The brand is not on your vessel. It is on you." Another impact shook the hull. Elias flicked switches, bringing the shields to life. Bright arcs of energy flashed across the view as the wardens fired again. Through the narrow glass, Elias saw them long, black shapes with no engines visible, gliding like predators through water. "They're not flying," he realized aloud. "They are bending space around themselves." Vather confirmed. "They do not chase, they arrive." The scanners screamed. Again, 3 more ships appeared directly in their path. Elias' hands tightened on the controls. "You said no one's escaped them before." "That is true," Vather said. "But no one has flown with a human before." Elias' grin was sharp. "Then let's make history." With a sudden burst of power, the small craft dived into a narrow gap between 2 warden ships. Alarms wailed, metal groaned, but they slipped past with only a glancing hit. Vather's gaze stayed locked on the scanners. "They will not stop, and when they catch you, they will not kill you, they will bind you." Elias didn't look away from the stars ahead. "Then I guess we'll just have to keep breaking chains." Somewhere in the void behind them, as the wardens gave chase, a single voice, cold and ancient, spoke. Through the comm system, it wasn't Elias' language, yet he understood it perfectly. "Human. You are in error. Errors must be corrected." Asterisk escape into the unknown. The stars ahead twisted like liquid, not because Elias was moving too fast, but because the space around them was bending. The wardens were close, bending the void to cut off every path. They didn't roar or fire wildly like desperate hunters. Every move was calm, precise, certain. Elias' small ship weaved between invisible currents. Vather stood behind him, watching the scanner with sharp focus. "They are pushing you toward the maw," he said. Elias didn't look back. "What's the maw?" "A wound in space. A place where the laws of the universe are broken. Enter it, and you may never return." Elias smirked. "Sounds like they want me to be scared." "They want you gone," Vather corrected. "Not dead gone," the scanners flashed 3 wardens ahead, 2 behind, and more closing from the flanks. The space between stars seemed to narrow, like the void itself was being folded into a trap. Elias twisted the controls, dropping the ship into a dive toward a belt of glowing debris. The chunks weren't asteroids, they were fragments of something much older, huge rings of metal, carved with the same alien runes that glowed on the warden ships. Vather's voice grew low. "These are pieces of the first gates, built by the architects in the age before light." Elias swerved around one broken ring. "They look dead to me." "They are never dead," Vather said. "Only sleeping." As if hearing him, one of the rings lit up. A surge of energy rippled through the debris field. The wardens hesitated, just for a moment, but that was enough. Elias punched the thrusters, skimming so close to the ring's inner edge that the hull hummed. The ship shot forward into open space, but it wasn't empty. A massive storm of blue lightning rolled ahead, stretching for light years. It wasn't like any storm Elias had seen. It didn't move through space. It was space. The maw, Vather gripped the back of Elias' chair. "If you enter, there's no path, no map, only chaos." Elias' grin returned. "Chaos sounds like my kind of place." They plunged into the storm. Instantly, the world outside twisted, stars split into copies, then shattered into colors Elias had no name for. The controls felt heavy, like the ship was moving through invisible mud. The wardens followed, their black shapes cutting through the lightning without effort. Vather shouted over the hum of the ship. "The maw changes those who survive it. If you survive it, you could become something they cannot touch." Elias banked hard, avoiding a sudden rift that opened like a mouth in the storm. "Something like what?" Vather's eyes glowed brighter. "Something the architects feared." A shadow loomed in the storm, a shape so massive that the lightning bent around it. It wasn't a planet, not a ship, it was a face, carved into stone so large it could only be seen from light years away, and the face was human. Before Elias could react, the ship's sensors spiked. A beam of golden light shot from the stone face, washing over them. Every system on the ship flickered. Vather stared, his voice full of something between wonder and dread. "It knows you." The light faded. The maw shifted, folding around them like a curtain. When Elias looked back, the wardens were gone. No ships, no signals, just the endless storm. The hunters arrived. The storm of the maw was silent now. The lightning had faded to thin veins of blue light, drifting like smoke in the dark. For a moment, Elias thought they'd escaped, but Vather's stillness told him otherwise. "They are here," the alien said quietly. Elias checked the scanners. Nothing. "No ships," he muttered. "No signals." Vather's eyes narrowed. "They do not need ships to find you." The lights inside the cockpit flickered, not from damage but like someone was thinking. Through them, a low hum filled the cabin, almost like a voice trying to form words. Then the hum became clear. It was Elias' own voice. "Elias Morgan," it said, perfectly matching his tone. "Why do you run?" Elias' hands froze on the controls. "That's not me," he said. "No." Vather agreed. "It's them. They're speaking through the maw, bending its chaos into your mind." The voice changed. Now it sounded like someone else, calmer. "Familiar, Elias," it said again. "Come home." Elias felt his chest tighten. It was his sister's voice, but his sister was dead. "They dig through memory," Vather warned. "They take what matters to you, twist it, and use it to pull you toward them." Elias clenched his jaw. "Not going to work." The voice softened. "It's safe here. No more running, no more storms, just rest." For a second, the cockpit around him blurred. He was standing on the shore of his homeworld. The air was warm, the sky a deep orange at sunset. His sister stood there, smiling. "You don't belong out there, Eli," she said. "Come back." A hand grabbed his shoulder. The vision snapped. Vather stood in front of him, his golden eyes blazing. "Look at me, not them," he ordered. "They cannot hold you if you don't believe the world they give you." The maw roared back to life, lightning cracking all around them, and in that chaos, the wardens appeared, not in ships, but as shapes of pure black, walking through the storm like it was solid ground. Their faces were hidden behind smooth, glass-like masks. Each one carried a chain not glowing, not heavy, but somehow final. Vather's voice was sharp. "If they touch you with that chain, you will never move again, not in body, not in thought." Elias grinned despite the danger. "Guess we keep moving then." He slammed the thrusters, the ship tearing through the storm. But the wardens didn't chase like normal hunters. They stepped through folds in space, appearing again and again in front of the ship. Each time closer, each time more certain. The scanners howled. One of the black shapes was no longer outside. It was inside the ship, standing in the rear corridor, silent, holding the chain. The fight for freedom. The black figure in the corridor did not move. It simply stood there, chain coiled in its hands like a serpent waiting to strike. Its mask reflected the dim cockpit lights, smooth, silver, and featureless. Elias rose from his seat, blaster in hand, but Vather's voice was sharp. "Don't shoot, it will not matter." The warden stepped forward, silent. Elias aimed anyway. "I don't care if it matters," he said, pulling the trigger. The shot hit, but the figure didn't even flinch. The blast's energy vanished into the black of its armor like water into dry sand. Vather's tone darkened. "They cannot be destroyed with weapons. The only way to beat them is to break the law that binds them." Elias tilted his head. "Then maybe it's time we stopped playing by their laws." The warden swung the chain. The moment it moved, Elias felt something strange. His thoughts slowed. Memories surfaced without his control. His first flight test, the first time he'd left his planet, the day he lost his sister. The chain wasn't meant to hurt the body, it was meant to bind the mind. Vather shouted, "Do not let them decide what is real." Elias gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He thought of the prison, of the moment his hand touched the glowing chains. He remembered the sound they made, not breaking, but vanishing. It had felt easy, like breathing. The warden stepped closer. The air thickened, the world dimmed. But Elias laughed. Not a fake laugh, a real one, sudden and loud. It startled even Vather. "You think you can hold my mind?" Elias said. "Good luck half the time. I can't even hold it myself." The warden paused. The chain's glow flickered for the first time. Elias stepped forward, still laughing, but now speaking clearly. "You've spent eternity facing minds that follow rules. I don't. Humans don't. We make things up. We break our own patterns. We turn mistakes into victories." He reached out, not with fear, but with curiosity. The chain trembled. Then, like the prison bonds, it dissolved into nothing. Vather's eyes widened. "You unmade it." Elias shrugged. "Guess it wasn't that eternal after all." But the victory was short. The other wardens outside the ship stopped moving. Then, as one, they turned their masked faces toward the cockpit. Vather's voice was low. "You've done more than fight them. You've changed them." Elias sat back in the pilot's chair. "Good. Let's see how much more they can change before they break." The maw ahead split open, revealing a starfield Elias had never seen before. The warden stepped back into the shadows of the storm, vanishing without a trace. But before the last one disappeared, its voice echoed in his mind. "Human, you are becoming bound no more." The storm of the maw faded behind them. The ship emerged into a stretch of space that felt untouched. The stars here burned brighter, cleaner, as if no war or law had ever reached this place. Elias let the engines ease down. For the first time since he'd met Vather, the cockpit was silent. The alien sat in the co-pilot's chair, staring at the endless starfield. "You've done what no one has done before," he said. Elias smirked. "Yeah, I'm starting to hear that a lot." Vather didn't smile. "You need to understand those chains, those laws. The wardens themselves, they were made to keep the galaxy stable. Without them, chaos will grow." Elias shrugged. "Sometimes chaos is the only way things change." Vather's gaze sharpened. "You don't know how many prisoners still wear those chains or what they will do once they are free." Elias looked out at the stars. "Then we'll find them." Vather tilted his head. "We?" "Yeah," Elias said. "You know where to look. I know how to fly. Seems like a good team." Vather's golden eyes glimmered in the light of the console. "For now, human, but the more you break, the more the galaxy will turn against you." Elias grinned. Wouldn't be the first time. They sat in silence for a moment, the ship drifting slowly, in the quiet. Elias thought back to the warden's last words. "You are becoming." Becoming what? Before he could dwell on it, the ship's sensors pinged. A faint signal, weak but repeating. It wasn't random, it was a code. Vather leaned forward, his voice low. "That is the call of another prisoner, one who has been bound even longer." "Then Elias flipped the engines back on. "Then I guess we've got our next stop." But as the ship turned toward the signal, far behind them, in the heart of the maw, something moved. It wasn't a warden. And it wasn't bound, it was watching, and in the darkness, a voice whispered, not to Elias, not to Vather, but to itself. "The human will unmake everything, and when he does, I will be waiting." The ship vanished into the stars, bound no more.